Okay, thank you all so much for being here today. The topic is the crisis that is to Leader Scalise to make remarks.
Well, thank you, Monica. Thank you all for coming out. And, we've been here before. We've toured the border a number of times. But you always learn something new, and especially you see the challenges that our Border Patrol agents face every day when they're trying to do their job and yet are basically being told that they can't fully carry out their mission because of these mandates from the Biden and Harris administration that make it hard for them to carry out their job of securing our border, especially from the drug cartels in Mexico that have taken operational control of so many parts of our southern border over the last 3.5 years. We've seen the devastation that it's caused throughout every region in the country. But of course, right here in South Texas, you're on the front lines of where this problem started, where it really got out of hand. But you also got to see, and we've talked to Governor Abbott's office on the things that they've done to start at least taking some things into their own hands where they can secure Texas's border and the problems that they ran into with the federal government, the Biden administration, suing them to try to stop them from being able to protect their own people here in Texas and the challenges that they face. But they've still moved forward and been able to reduce some of the flow here in some of the parts of Texas. Of course, it's just moved to other parts of the country, including now even to our northern border. And so as we have continued to work on finding solutions, and frankly, you don't need to look far. Our Border Patrol agents have told us for years what the problems are and how we can fix this crisis. And in fact, we took those ideas and put them into the bill called H.R. 2 that we passed through the House last year. A bill that would have ended catch and release, that would have stopped the bulk of the problem, that would have reinstated the Remain in Mexico protocols that President Trump had negotiated that were working so well to prevent people to come into the United States seeking asylum. You'd have to stay in Mexico or in your home country, which is what the law says. And yet Joe Biden eviscerated all that with executive actions when he became president. And Kamala Harris has been there every step of the way as his borders are, backing him up on opening America's border and ignoring the devastating consequences it's caused. Not only the millions of people that have come across illegally, the tens of thousands of people that have come to commit more crimes, and we've seen devastating crimes committed. The 150 young people a day all across America that die because of the fentanyl and other drug overdoses that are directly tied to the open southern border. They don't care about that. And most Americans do. Most Americans are fed up, like we are, and want to see action. And President Trump knows the actions that need to be taken and has taken those actions before when he was president, and he'll take those actions again. It's one of the many reasons why I'm very confident President Trump will be our next president in just 2 weeks. It's why the Border Patrol Council has endorsed President Trump. It's why we know what needs to be done, and I think most of the American people know what needs to be done, because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden won't solve this problem. They created the problem. They could reverse this on their own. They've just chosen not to because they want an open southern border. So we're going to continue working with our Border Patrol agents, with the people here on the ground in states like Texas who want to confront and stop this problem. But in the meantime, as we're fighting the Biden and Harris administration, I think it's important that we continue to let people know and remind people of the good ideas and the different ways that you can solve this problem, like H.R. 2. With that, man on the front line who represents our Border Patrol agents so well, who are true heroes in this. They risk their lives every day. They want to keep our community safe. They want to keep violent criminals out of our country, the gang members. They want to get back to just being able to enforce the existing laws in the United States of America, and representing them so aptly is Paul Perez, the head of the National Border Patrol Council.
I want to thank Leader Scalise for bringing this delegation down here, and Congresswoman Cruz for putting it together, and Myra Flores as well for joining us, and the other members that are going to be taking office here soon. So our people have been living this day in and day out. Going back to 2014, the Rio Grande Valley has always been the center point for apprehensions. And when Trump was in office, Congress would not work with him to allow him to fully secure the border when he wanted to do it. So he had to find other ways, and he did that through policy. So he showed that you do not need legislation to close it down. You just need the right policies, the right willpower. We know that once he comes back into office, he will absolutely do what he needs to do to shut this border down. And I'm glad that these members came out to see firsthand and hear firsthand the devastation that Borders Are Harris's policies have caused across the country. They're from different states up on the northern border as well. And for the first time, we're having to send reinforcements up to the northern border because that border's under siege as well. So we thank them for coming out here and seeing and hearing from us firsthand what we need to actually secure this border once and for all. We know that once they take office, they will do everything to bring this border back to the way it should be, to protect the citizens of this country. The untold number of immigrants that have been released into this country with little to no vetting have caused devastation across communities around the nation. They've murdered, they've robbed, they've raped, they've done all types of crimes, and it's time that we take our country back, and we believe that these people standing behind us will actually help us do that. I now want to turn it over to the Honorable Monica de la Cruz.
Thank you to my colleagues for being here today. This is a matter of national security, border security, and it begins right here in McAllen, Texas, where we must stand up with our Border Patrol agents. We must stand with our Border Patrol agents as they are the front line to this devastation caused by the Biden and Harris administration. Something that's very important to me is our children. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and the devastation that the drugs that have come in, including fentanyl, has caused on families. Soon we're going to be entering the holidays, and there will be families with empty chairs where their children has been lost to the fentanyl that has been brought by these cartels across our border. Just recently, I very proudly passed a piece of legislation combating illegal drugs, including fentanyl. Not only did it pass the House floor, but it also passed the entire Congress and was signed into law by the President of the United States. This piece of legislation is the first bill to come out of a congressman representing Texas 15. And I want you to know that shows how hard our team is working, not only for our community, but for the entire United States. That being said, I'd like to say a couple of words in Spanish since we do have our Spanish media here. Es un honor estar aquí con ustedes, estar con los agentes de la frontera y los líderes del Congreso. Hablamos sobre el fracaso de Biden y Harris en la frontera. He trabajado durísimo para asegurar la frontera, pero tenemos una Casa Blanca que no ayuda. Pero por eso, el crimen está altísimo en los Estados Unidos y tantos niños han muerto por drogas que cruzan a la frontera. Ha sido una crisis y es muy peligroso, tanto para los inmigrantes y nuestra comunidad. Necesitamos un sistema seguro. La Cámara ya pasó una legislación muy fuerte, pero el Senado y la Casa Blanca están en juegos políticos. La gente de nuestra comunidad están acabados de Biden y Harris. Thank you. Go ahead and pass it on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Monica. My name is Pete Stauber, and I represent northeastern Minnesota, 8th Congressional District. This is my 4th time down to the border. This is my 4th time down to the border. I've been down here more than the borders are Kamala Harris. To listen to our Border Patrol agents, the heroes on our both northern and southern border. Paul, I want to thank you and your staff, all the agents and your families who support you in this endeavor. We understand the difficulties it has been under this administration. In the early afternoon hours of January 20th, 2025, this border will be shut down. President Trump had the most secure border in the history of this nation, and we're going to get back to it in just a few short weeks. We have a northern border, as the Border Patrol agents talked about. Now we're having 300% and 400% illegal crossings on our northern border. It's because of these policies, the catch and release, the asylum laws, the Health and Human Services, who sponsor 15 to 20 kids at a time, and we have no idea where they are. Pushing over 500,000 children. We have no idea where they are, whether they're alive or whether they're dead, whether they're being trafficked. Under the Biden-Harris administration, it's unconscionable. We as Americans can do better. We don't have to accept this. We will accept a strong border where legal immigration has benefited this country, has built this country. We have, we have a legal way to enter this country. The illegal invasion is going to stop under President Trump. Paul, the Border Patrol agents, you have been put through hell and high water these last 4 years. Help is on its way in the form of President Trump and a Senate and a House that understands. We're going to put forth good legislation. And Monica, thank you for your leadership involving the southern border. In South Texas, you are a leader in our conference, and I am so proud to stand with you in the halls of Congress, defending our borders, defending the American and the values here in Texas. I want to turn it over to my good friend now, Representative Harriet Hagman from Wyoming.
Thank you. Thank you. I am Harriet Hagman, and I represent the state of Wyoming. Wyoming is the least populated state in the nation. We have roughly 560,000 people who live in my state. That number has crossed this border more than tenfold since the Biden-Harris administration took office in January 2021. I'm going to give you some additional statistics that I think are very important. We have spent over $150 billion attempting to house, provide health care services, and food for illegal aliens in the last 3.5 years. That's $150 billion that is not going to the folks in North Carolina that have had one of the most devastating hurricane seasons on record. It's not going to the folks in Florida that were just affected by 2 major storms. That's $150 billion that we're not spending on our schools, that we're not spending on health care for citizens, that we're not spending on our veterans. In addition to that, this is my 4th visit to the border as well. When I was in Eagle Pass, Texas in January, we learned that the cartels in just that one sector were making $35 million a week on human trafficking. It used to be that the cartels made the majority of their money on drugs, but now we know that it is in human trafficking. And what does human trafficking mean? Oftentimes we think about that, and it's a nice way of talking about what is in reality slavery. They are bringing people across that border illegally, and they are enslaving them. They are enslaving them to push them into the pornography industry. They are sex trafficking them. They have lost hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors between the Department of Homeland Security and the Health and Human Services. They have lost, think about that, hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors who are working in sweatshops, who are engaging in child pornography, who are engaging in sex acts with adults. That is what the Biden-Harris administration has done over the last 3.5 years. If you think about the $35 million a week that the Mexican drug cartels were making just in the Eagle Pass, Texas sector, that is $1.7 billion a year on human trafficking. That is empowering some of the worst of the worst of the worst in the world and making them so massively rich so that they can continue to terrorize the people not only in the United States who are having to suffer the consequences of this, but the people that they're bringing across that border as well. When I was in Yuma, Arizona, about a year and a half ago, I was standing near an open space in the gate, an open space in the wall that had not been finished because of the Biden-Harris administration. And one of the Border Patrol employees told me that they had found over 200 bodies just on the other side of that particular area. And I said, why would you be finding bodies there? This is where they come to be processed. And he said, because they attempted to cross over without going through the cartels. And if you try to come into this country without going through the cartels, they kill you. That is what the Biden and Harris administration have done in the last 3.5 years. That is the culture that they have created. That is the situation that we are suffering with. So we have not only the problems in this country, but the fact that they are enslaving people by the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, by the millions, because of what the Mexican drug cartels are doing to them. This must stop. On November 5th, we have an opportunity to put someone in office who will actually address this situation. And on January 20th, 2025, we are going to fix this open border. I'll now turn it over to Myra Flores, who I am hoping is going to be joining us in Congress next year.
Thank you. Border Patrol is my family, but so is your family as well. Our Border Patrol agents are our husbands, wives, daughters, sons. They're our neighbors. It's important that we prioritize our Border Patrol agents' needs. Thank you for everything that y'all are doing for us, for protecting us. It's important that we put politics aside. This is truly the most important election of our lifetime. Border security does not mean being anti-immigrant. We support immigration. I immigrated to this country. I support legal immigration, but we have to stop incentivizing illegal immigration. Not only it's putting the American people at risk, but it's also hurting the people in Mexico. Thanks to illegal immigration, the Mexican cartel is in full control of the southern border. They have the people of Mexico terrorized. Many of us have family in Mexico that we're afraid to go visit. Why would we want or we're afraid to come here to the United States? It's important that we change the leadership in Washington, that we change the leadership in Texas District 34, and that we have real representation that is going to put the safety of the American people first. Now, to the Spanish-speaking community who's also listening to this, a mi comunidad de habla hispana, les pido por favor que prioricen la seguridad de este país. Yo inmigré a este país y nosotros apoyamos la inmigración. Todos nosotros aquí apoyamos la inmigración legal. Pero es importante que tengamos ley y orden. Y desgraciadamente bajo la administración de Biden y Harris no hemos tenido ley y orden y eso ha puesto a nuestra gente en peligro. No solamente necesitamos asegurar la frontera, apoyar a los agentes de la frontera, porque los agentes de la frontera son nuestra familia. Los agentes de la frontera son nuestros esposos, nuestras esposas, son nuestras hermanas, nuestros hermanos. Es importante que los apoyemos a ellos también. Ellos están aquí para protegernos a todos. Es importante que entiendan que los agentes de la fronteriza son nuestra familia. Y no están en contra de nosotros, están aquí para cuidar de nosotros. Y desafortunadamente esta administración le ha faltado el respeto a nuestra familia, le ha faltado el respeto a nuestros agentes. Necesitamos cambiar el líder en Washington, también en el Distrito 34, porque es importante que tengamos representación que nos va a representar no solamente a nosotros con nuestros valores, pero también la seguridad de nuestra comunidad y también que va a fortalecer la economía, porque bajo esta administración estamos todos batallando. Pregúntense, ¿están mejor que estuvieron hace 4 años? Y la contestación es no. La mayoría de la gente ahorita está batallando económicamente, no estamos seguros y también estamos batallando económicamente. Hay que votar con nuestro bolsillo, hay que priorizar esta elección, es la elección más importante. Por favor, prioricen a sus familias, prioricen a los agentes de la fronteriza porque ellos son nuestra familia y están aquí para cuidar de nosotros. I humbly ask everybody to please prioritize your families, the needs of your families, to keep your families safe, but also to prioritize the economy, because without a good economy, we're not able to take care of our families. So vote with your pockets. Check your bank account. See how it is. And I guarantee you that you're not doing better than you were 4 years ago. So vote on November 5th, but vote for border security, but also vote for a stronger economy. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Bob Onder. I'm the Republican nominee for Missouri's 3rd Congressional District. And in Missouri, we've realized that illegal immigration is a problem for quite a long time. In 2008, I passed and the governor signed one of the strongest state laws in the country to fight illegal immigration. We banned sanctuary cities, we ended catch and release, and we required local law enforcement to cooperate with the federal government in enforcing immigration law. But as impactful as that bill was at the time, now it has no effect, because the Biden administration has made every state a border state and every city a sanctuary city. So that's had devastating consequences in my district, as it has around the country. Officer David Lee, just earlier this month, was responding to a traffic situation when he was killed by an illegal alien driving drunk. That individual had been convicted of DUI before and had been convicted and was on probation for domestic assault. He should not have been in our country. Earlier this year, a good friend of mine lost his brother to a fentanyl poisoning. Now, I'm a medical doctor. 10, 15 years ago, the #1 cause of opiate deaths in the United States was prescription drugs. Not anymore. Now, in the last year, 100,000 Americans have died of fentanyl poisoning. We have got to stop this madness. These tragedies are the result of the willful non-enforcement of our border by the Biden-Harris administration. So I look forward to joining these great individuals, these great public servants, with President Trump to secure our border come January. And I thank all the brave Border Patrol agents, the good law enforcement agents of McAllen, Texas, for all they do to try to make us safe. But help is on the way. Thank you.
They never make these my height. Hey everybody, my name is Pat Harrigan from the 10th District of North Carolina. Look, one of the reasons I ran for Congress is because I saw a failed leader in President Joe Biden lead us to a failed outcome in Afghanistan. And one thing has become very clear to me today from talking with our Border Patrol agents down here in McAllen, Texas. And that is, as borders are, this is Kamala Harris's Afghanistan right here. This is an utter failure that is currently costing American lives and making Americans less secure each and every day. Moreover, we've learned today that crossings have actually not come down. That's an obfuscation that the Harris Walls campaign is making. What has actually happened is we have transition folks coming across from the more rural areas, and the Biden-Harris administration has just vectored them into the actual physical border crossings that we have at our checkpoints, and they're skewing the numbers. The same number of people are still coming into this country every day. They're applying for political asylum through the CBP-1 app. They are not qualified for political asylum, and they're getting released into our country to have some sort of adjudication within our legal process in the next 8 to 10 years. That is not acceptable for this country's security. We do not know who these people are, and we still have folks that are getting away in the rural areas. What is it, let me ask you a question. What does it mean when we have folks who are actually evading our Border Patrol when the current administration is just letting people walk across the border under temporary protected status at our established checkpoints? That means that they don't want to be caught. Why do they not want to be caught? The answer is, we don't know, but they're up to absolutely no good. For the future safety of our children and all American citizens, we have got to shut this border down. That is exactly what we're going to do on November 5th, January 20th, and I cannot wait to be part of this team up here that actually deals with this problem and doesn't just allow an open border to create chaos for the United States of America. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and take any questions if anybody has some questions. Is that okay, boss? Yep. Okay. Any questions that you all want to ask? Don't be shy. Gonna get us some. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Come on, we can't hear you.
Hi there. So just looking at CBP's numbers, it seems to indicate that 80% or more than 80% of opioids are coming through the ports of entry. So my question is, in addressing migrant crossings, how would that address the opioid crisis?
So yeah, your question was about the drop in Border Patrol apprehensions. Is that correct?
No, sorry. It was so I was asking about, CBP's numbers. They indicate that more than 80% of opioids are coming through the ports of entry. So I was just wondering how trying to bring down migrant crossings would address that specifically.
Yeah. So there's a lot of narcotics coming across the border. Yes, through ports of entry, but also in between the ports of entry. And so historically, ports of entry have always had more apprehensions of narcotics. However, that's not the only place that they're coming. So because our agents have had their hands tied and have had to do administrative duties, we weren't able to apprehend the level of narcotics that we had been previously in some sectors where it's the bigger thing than RGVs such as Laredo. The cartels dictate what's going to cross and when. So it's a lot. It's still happening. The more that we can have our agents out there, the better off we're going to be in closing the loop on the drugs that are coming across.
Any other question? There's one over
Sorry.
here.
Oh,
Let's grab.
sorry. Just another question. I know during former President Trump's campaign, he's been talking a lot about mass deportations. I was wondering if that's something that you all would support, or and how would that manifest itself, I guess.
If you listen to what President Trump's talked about, the first priority is to identify and deport the violent criminals. I mean, we have seen tens of thousands of people who have come across illegally who are violent criminals. You hear reports of countries releasing their prisoners, violent prisoners. It's one of the reasons when you see a lot of the crime, the violent crime showing up in communities that are committed by illegals. I've seen it in my district. I think we've all seen it.